Colorado sees its highest COVID-19 hospitalization numbers in months as the anti-masker-in-chief returns to the White House from the hospital and removes his mask before going inside. Disinformation about voter fraud is being spread in Colorado. Tonight, the real story on what it takes to register and to vote here. A look at a tree in Colorado's forest, one that firefighters fear when it becomes wildfire fuel. Yet that tree needs the fire to live. DMV offices are back open. Does that mean you can get in trouble for old tags again? And the gender reveal that unveiled some Coloradans' contempt for nature. Next. The world's most famous COVID-19 patient appears to be doing better tonight, and that is terrific news. Not as terrific that President Trump immediately took off his mask as he returned to the White House, his house, but also the workplace of cooks and custodians and all sorts of regular folks who don't have his kind of health care. Here in Colorado, our COVID-19 numbers are not moving in the direction that we would like to see. Highest hospitalization totals recorded since late July, 233 people at last count. Now, I should stress, that is well within the capacity of the healthcare system. Yet hospitalizations have been ticking up for about a week. Our 7-day average is now over 203 patients, and that's up about 60 patients a day from where it was 2 weeks ago. Our positivity rate yesterday was 3.46%. A weekly average of tests coming back positive is 3.44%. That is a very manageable number from a public health perspective, down from where it was a week ago, up from 2 weeks ago. Mentioned that President Trump is back at the White House tonight. It's a residence that can function as a hospital, but all for the most extreme situations. So he'll continue his care there. The president received a combination of treatments at Walter Reed, conventional and experimental treatments. In fact, he might be the only person on earth to get that specific treatment combination. But the president's message for America today before he left the hospital via tweet was, quote, "Don't be afraid of COVID. Don't let it dominate your life." More than 200,000 American lives have been lost to the virus. And so, may I make a recommendation? Want you to point you to somebody else's thoughts on this I think are worth considering. And I believe this is the first time in the 4 years of the program that I will be directing you to cable news, because frankly, a lot of it left and right is pretty toxic. But CNN's Jake Tapper laid out a sober and serious case over the weekend, a plea almost, for the president to change direction and begin to start taking the science seriously, to stop mocking people for following the mask advice that his own doctors give. A call to, as Tapper said, get it together so that Americans who do not have the president's daily testing and helicopter rides to the hospital and the best medical care in the world, which he should have, so that those folks can have the same good chance against a virus that nearly all, but not everyone, will survive. We'll share that full commentary from Jake Tapper on the next Facebook and Twitter pages. Tonight's next question comes from Bill. He wants to know if all metro area DMV offices have reopened since shutting down during the pandemic. And Bill said he's still seeing a lot of those temporary tags that expired months ago. He wants to know if law enforcement will start ticketing people again. That is an excellent question, Bill. So we saw over the summer in Denver those long lines outside the DMV once they reopened to in-person service. Those branches reopened to the public at the end of June. Adams County DMV only closed to the public for about a week when the pandemic started, and Jefferson County DMVs reopened to the public on June 1st. So drivers got that extra grace period if you had expired tags for your registration. In some counties, we need to inform you, grace is gone. This really is county by county because it's up to law enforcement to enforce the law. Denver police told us that they did resume enforcement for expired tags at the beginning of this month. Jeffco deputies are allowing their folks to use discretion, so it'll depend on whether your expiration happened at the beginning or the end of the pandemic. And just remember, no matter where you are, if you need to renew, you can do that online. Our state right now is a lesson in how disinformation about voter fraud spreads like wildfire, and how that disinformation is equally difficult to extinguish once it gets sparked. CBS 4 Denver has taken down a story that contained dubious suggestions that a postcard encouraging voter registration actually invited voter fraud. But that retraction has not stopped Colorado's Republican Party chairman, Congressman Ken Buck, from making that debunked TV report the centerpiece of his call for a federal investigation. Now, the facts are clear, and they're not partisan, and voter registration honestly should not be either. A Republican county clerk showed our Steve Steger how it really works.
I'm completely an elections geek. I am
Consider that the reason Republican Weld County Clerk Carly Koppas doesn't seem to mind the constant phone calls questioning election security.
I take this as an opportunity to have conversations with people and educate.
There's much concern about the voter rolls these days after a story started making the rounds about postcards sent to people who aren't eligible to vote, encouraging them to register. The thing is, anyone ineligible who gets a postcard and tries to register likely isn't going to be able to do it.
We have such a strong system here in Colorado that it'd be very, very difficult for somebody to attempt to do that.
Koppas said she's unaware of any cases in Colorado recently where someone who was ineligible to vote was able to register.
You fill out a voter registration form in the statewide voter registration system called SCORE. We input your information in there. That automatically checks your driver's license number, makes sure again that it's valid, double checks your social security number.
Then your name is checked against a recent list of deaths from CDPHE. Your address verified through a postal service database. And it doesn't just happen when you register. Koppas says her office verifies its voter list against the death registry at least once or twice a month.
And we do a lot of that year round, not just right before an election, not just days before an election.
Context is key.
We kind of ignore the politicalization of elections, and we concentrate on making sure that we're getting that information out there that's correct and factual.
But what about the ballots, you might be saying? Koppas says that is why they double check that list against the death registry twice a month to keep the voter rolls clean and make sure that they are mailing ballots to active voters. And if someone gets a ballot, fills it out, tries to do it all fraudulently, they'd have to go through signature verification. If the signatures don't match, the voters have the chance to cure their ballot right there in the county clerk's office. If they don't respond to that, Kyle, the ballot is not counted, and that case is referred to the district attorney's office. It is a felony to fill out a ballot fraudulently in Colorado.
Whole lot of layers. Steve, thank you. This Thursday on 9 News at 4 o'clock, we are bringing on some of the folks who run our local elections to answer your questions about voting. Our special election town hall runs from 4:30 in the afternoon to 5 o'clock. And you can send in your questions about the election, the voting process, how votes get counted, anything you want to know. You can text them to 303-871-1491. We ask that you include your name and where you're from. You'll notice that's the same number that we use for a word of thanks. So if you have that saved in your phone, you can send your voting questions to that same number. And we're just a week away from Next Presents Race from the Senate. It's a debate here on 9 News. Tuesday, October 13th. Republican Senator Cory Gardner and Democratic challenger John Hickenlooper will take the stage at CSU. That debate, commercial-free hour, begins at 6 o'clock here in place of Next. It will be seen corner to corner in Colorado, thanks to our partner TV and radio stations. Hey, speaking of word of thanks, I don't know what kind of Monday you're having so far, but here's a reason to feel encouraged no matter what. Next viewers came through again. Donated $44,000 for Metro Caring. They're the folks who provide food to families in the metro area and work on the root causes of poverty and hunger. $44,000 in a week. It's astonishing. Week after week after week, we're tackling one goal after another and helping a lot of great nonprofits throughout our state. $5 donation after $5 donation. Word of Thanks has now raised more than $850,000 for our state's nonprofits since June. We'll tee up our next group project on Wednesday. There's something wrong with Colorado's forests.
Our forests are out of sync with what they should be. And so fire is important in the landscape.
And there's one tree in there that needs those fires to survive. Also, congratulations to the folks whose gender reveal is making the evening news just because you trashed a public park. It's Not How You Colorado, and it's next. It can be tough to appreciate in years that we know that some Coloradans have lost homes to wildfires, and in a year when the smoke has been lingering over the Front Range even today. But we know that healthy fires are one key to keeping Colorado's forests strong. And for one species, the fires are how it survives. Here's Corey Reppenhagen.
These tall, slender conifer trees are known as lodgepole pines. They are native to Colorado and they have a unique trait. They need fire to breed.
The cones on a lodgepole pine we call them serotinous cones because they're closed. The scales are closed with sap.
Cammie Long, a forester with the Colorado State Forest Service, says the sap will only release the seeds when extreme heat is applied. She says between 113 and 140 degrees of heat. The sunshine can do that, but the lodgepole mostly relies on wildfire to spread its next generation. Long says a stand of lodgepole pine needs to get recycled by wildfire about once every 200 to 300 years. But humans have spent the last 100 years suppressing wildfire, allowing the forest to grow thick and unhealthy.
When you have such a density of trees because of past forest management, it becomes, we're paying for past sins, past management inactivity, because we didn't understand the importance of wildfire on the landscape.
She says there's more than 1.5 million acres of lodgepole pine in Colorado, which makes up about 7% of our wildland. The Williams Fork and Cameron Peak fires have both scorched stands of lodgepole, restarting a life cycle that Long says will give humans an opportunity to help manage going forward. She says the lodgepole is by design often the first spark of life to re-emerge after a wildfire, and our state may need this tree in our future.
They've adapted to Colorado. They're adapted for here. So they're used to dealing with drier conditions or insect and fire. They're adapted to grow here with all the things that we have.
Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen for Next.
State Forest Service says that firefighters are particularly wary of fighting fires in lodgepole pines because they're considered a natural ladder fuel. A very thin bark, and it allows the fire to quickly climb up their skinny trunk, and it gets into the crown, and once it starts going crown to crown, those fires can be almost unstoppable.
Our unusual October weather pattern continues. Record high temperatures are possible this week. Haze, smoke, high fire danger. Our high today at 83 at DIA. The average this time of year is 70. We're going to be just as warm tomorrow. We're monitoring the winds, which have been kicking up as a dry front has crossed northern Colorado. That smoke continues to funnel around the top of the high pressure ridge, dropping south. Air quality alerts remain in effect for tonight and tomorrow for wildfire smoke and also ozone. Red flag warnings out for high fire danger. Tonight, fair skies and 45. Smoke and haze a part of our forecast heading into tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures above average until the weekend, then a cooling trend, and maybe if we're lucky, the chance for a few showers both Sunday evening and Monday. Next week, highs in the 60s.
A gender reveal is revealing people's disregard for nature, and frankly, it's not how you Colorado. Somebody wanted the world to know they're having a baby boy. Congratulations. So you blasted blue confetti all over Crown Hill Park. A Jeffco Open Space Ranger spent 3 hours raking up the mess today. Now, we did see that one gender reveal that started a wildfire in California, so it could have been worse, but that's not how you Colorado. A first of firsts today. No other American woman has a paid state holiday in her honor.
Mother Cabrini walked on these grounds. She was here, the kids were here with her, and, that's what makes it holy.
The story of the woman behind the shrine along the interstate. Next. Today is Colorado's first ever Mother Cabrini Day. State legislature voted last year to replace Columbus Day on the calendar with a holiday honoring St. Francis Xavier Cabrini. She spent the latter part of the 1800s traveling around the country, setting up orphanages and hospitals and schools. One of those orphanages was in Golden, and now that's the shrine that you can see from I-70.
This place is a dedication to St. Cabrini. Originally, it was a camp for the orphan girls and transformed into a shrine about the time Mother Cabrini was canonized. I think the most important thing is that Mother Cabrini walked on these grounds. She was here, the kids were here with her, and, that's what makes it holy.
Mother Cabrini is a very special woman. She has such a desire to help people. Her dream was to go to China. But when she met this bishop, This bishop said to her, why do you want to go to China? Go to the United States. Because in the United States, your compatriots are there, and they're suffering. She became a citizen in Seattle. So she was the first to be canonized to be a citizen, but she wasn't born here. She was born in Italy. I think people want examples of holy people to really follow what they lived, what they did. She was very humanitarian. When Mother Cabrini was here, she went up with the sisters and the orphans. They gathered stones and they made a heart, and it's still up there. She's not the center. She wouldn't want to be the center. Right. The center is the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Jesus in the life of people, because that's who she wanted to take to the people all over the world.
Mother Cabrini founded the Institute of the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and today those sisters are in 15 countries across 6 continents. So it would appear that the key to easing back into activity after having a hip replacement is to start out on one of the smaller 14ers. That and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today are some 14er firsts. Jim and Vic summited Mount Yale last week. It was Vic's first 14er at age 68. Hey, that's not bad. For Jim, first 14er for the new hip that he got 4 months ago. That is also pretty impressive. This tough couple then followed up their Mount Yale trip with a hike up Mount Sherman a few days later. Bluebird skies, and they said friendly folks out there both days. I love that. A lot of folks want to talk about the fact that for the first time in 4 years on this program, I suggested that you watch something from cable news, Jake Tapper's commentary on CNN. Karen said, we can't all want our leaders to behave so much better and still wish them well. Jen said, thanks for being one of the few to mention the White House staff and those outside the president's immediate circle on the impact of COVID-19. Terry said, thanks for doing what's right and not what is popular. If I sound a bit angry, it's because COVID visited our family. Theta is not pleased that I referred you to the Tapper commentary, said you should not be allowed to use your profile for political views. And I think that just about sums up where we are, Theta, that the idea that we should be protecting our neighbors from a virus is a political view. Whew, that's bad news there. See you next time.